Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers 2. In the last part, we started off the game, and now we're in Stage 5, the Haunted Mansion, which actually has some enemies that seem like they'd be annoying, but they really aren't. For instance, these ghost dogs, they charge right at you when you're at a certain distance, but due to how high Chip and Dale jump, getting around them isn't that big of an issue. What's more annoying is probably the candles. If you let them do anything, but if you just throw a block at them, you can just pick them up and use them as an enemy, as a weapon themselves. I don't know why, but there's always just something hilarious to me about using an enemy as a weapon. Maybe it's just the absurdity of it all, kind of like the idea of Sabin suplexing a certain locomotive in Final Fantasy VI. Though this section has its own little gimmick in that it goes dark every so often. It's just based around a timer, but if you're near one of the paintings when that happens, the skull face on them will generate some weird ghastly ghoul thing to send at you. You don't see it here just because if you keep moving, there's not much of a threat of it, but it is there. There's also a nice little Monterey Jack refill there. I'm not entirely sure how useful those are in the long run, at least in two-player. In one-player, I guess if I'm getting reckless, I can take shots pretty easily, but overall, if I'm taking damage in this game, it's from the boss fight. Speaking of which, the boss of this stage is the Grim Ghost, one of the more annoying bosses in the game, but not because it's hard. It has two attacks. One, it'll slowly wave across the screen like that, dropping two little mummy balls, which are what we need to use to damage it. It tends to spam the move a couple times in my experience, but then it'll eventually move on to spamming its other move, where it starts on the right side of the screen, fires a little laser beam / projectile from its right hand, will move about halfway across the screen, fire another one, and then move almost directly to the left side of the screen. However, when it moves in relation to you. It's trying to home in on you. But if you just hug the very left of the screen and duck, there's no chance of him touching you. This fight isn't too annoying for the attacks, but just due to how long the attacks and such take. Because of that, I actually ended up speeding up a good portion of this fight because while fights like this can be intimidating, the length of time that it takes between attacks can be annoying, especially given the little portion of the time when it just lights up in between attacks, which doesn't serve much of a opportunity, much of a purpose other than giving you some breathing room, I suppose. But if the ghost just went right from attack to attack, there wouldn't be that much of a difficulty to the fight even still. So, just kind of an annoyance, really. Stage itself is pretty easy. Boss can be annoying, but not because it's hard. And now we're on to, I believe, stage 6? One thing you should note, though, there is a time limit on the bonus games. It's 10 seconds. We did it! All the ghosts should disappear soon. Don't you rescue rodents ever learn? Uh-oh, that's Fat Cat! Come out here and face us! Are you a cat or a mouse? Not so fast, Rangers. If you dare to face me, come to the amusement park. I'll be waiting. Oh, that Fat Cat! We gotta stop him! Wait, Dale! It smells like a trap. To me. But we're here anyway. You're doomed, Rescue Rangers. I control this entire amusement park. You'll never capture me. Oh yeah? Don't bet on it, Fat Cat! Ha! You need 3 keys to enter my control room. And they're all hidden in different parts of the park. Have fun! We've got to get to the keys! Righto, Dale! Where should we go first? And now I get the equivalent to a stage select from the first game, but we have to go through all 3 of these stages anyway, so we're just going to go through them in descending order. Starting off with the Clock Tower. And the Clock Tower, despite being named similar to a certain Castlevania stage, is thankfully not so. This stage is honestly pretty easy. The major difference of difficulty in it comes from these platforms. They constantly flow along the chain from whatever gears they're attached to. However, they move at a really good speed, and they're such a good size that you don't have to really worry about missing the jump. And even though this game has knockback, which is something that comes more into play in the next stage, there's not usually enemies in such a location that you can get knocked off of these platforms. Something you do need to watch out for, though, is that I think I should have mentioned this even earlier in the game. During any given vertical section in a stage, when a platform scrolls off the screen to the bottom, it's no longer there. This game can't scroll back down. What's below me now is just consistent bottomless pit. So watch out for that. It's Contra System all over again. Contra Syndrome, not Contra System. There are gears in this stage that I think move you if you're on them, but overall, it's not a very hard stage. What can be kind of hard is the boss fight here against Ornery Ostrich. This boss has two attacks to note. One is where it shoots out 3 gears. One of them is going to land on the floor, and that's what you need to use to attack it. However, the other one is where it zooms across the screen once and then back in the opposite direction to where it started, in which case it'll usually follow up with another gear attack. It can also just move across the screen outright, and there's a chance that it'll jump up to the second layer of platforms when you do that, so you kind of need to wait until the last second to really jump up to these platforms if you want to dodge any damage. I don't seem to do that, though, because I just have trouble doing that for some reason. And it's always caused me so amount of shit in this boss fight, to the point where this is probably one of the boss fights I've died the most to over my years. However, on the whole, it's not a bad boss, but it just might take some getting used to. You might want to take some patience when it comes to jumping up to the upper platforms. When you die, you get sent back to the most recent checkpoint, which in most cases is just the last time the screen faded to black in between sections of the stage. And that's the first of those 3 stages down. Notable, all 3 of these stages are fairly short in length. Mind you, the entire game stages are fairly short in length, so it doesn't really matter to begin with. We found the key! Where to next? Let's head on over to Western World. And they always do give you an option of Are You Sure, which is a way that's actually better than Mega Man in that regard, because Mega Man never really asks you, Are you sure, when you select the stage on the stage select. Not yet you really need it to begin with, because the stages themselves are usually made in such a way that you can approach them in any order, even though some might be more difficult than others, depending on the order you take. Here in this game, not so much. This stage is one of the harder in the game, though, just because of this minecart gimmick. When you walk up to the switch, you attach to it. There are 3 speeds to the minecart. Technically 4, actually. The standard neutral, the neutral when you're on the switch, I think, is actually slightly faster. And then, when you're on the switch, you can either hold left or right to speed up or slow down, respectively. You need to do that in tandem with the obstacles around you to not try and get hit. However, the issue is, first off, when the minecart adjusts tracks like that, you lose the switch, and you can easily fall off due to that. And the minecart is the one section of the game where knockback can actually be kind of lethal, particularly with these wrecking balls. If you're not careful, well, you'll get wrecked. Like so. Especially given the knockback and you're trying to take control back. Because unlike some other games where knockback lasts until you hit the ground again, in this game, knockback gives you control the moment after you leap out of the air. However, if you try to over-adjust too much, you're going to fall in the pit. So be careful there. This is easily the stage I've died the most in overall over my years, but it's not too bad, but you just need to be patient. The boss of this stage is the Card Cat. The only attack this guy has is to throw 2 cards at you in a row. Otherwise, he'll just move around the screen, jumping up onto the platforms. However, you want to stay relatively close to him because the first card it throws can land on any of the given platforms and act as your ammunition. However, you do need to note that there is a certain diagonal path that every card follows depending on the distance, so you do need to position yourself carefully when it comes to picking up the cards. Otherwise, you're just going to miss it and they're going to fly off screen like that. This is probably the easiest out of the 3 bosses from the stages we have this selectability of, because it only has these attacks, moving and throwing. But you just due to the effect that you need to watch out with where you're positioned compared to some of the other ones, at least in order to be able to attack it, it could have its difficulties. Also, a restriction on the boss fights in this game, there can only be one damage item on screen at a time. You can only have one piece of ammo to throw, so you can't stock up and just spam fire at it. You do need to take everything one shot at a time. The strange thing about getting the continues in this game is I can only usually do it in the last stage. We've got 2 keys! That means the last one must be in the future world. Right, let's go. And thankfully this game realizes that having a stage select when there's only one stage left is kind of redundant, which is something that some other games like this that are not named Mega Man have done, with Mega Man at least makes sense past, say, 3, where they added in items you might want to go and farm for in between stages. Future World has mostly some enemies returning from some other stages, depending on the order you take, but it does have these platforms, which can, I think if they crush you, it might be instant death. However, you do need to use them as platforms as well. Comparatively, though, this is probably the most vanilla stage out of the 3, because the Clockwork stage at least has the gears that act as moving platforms and conveyor belts. The Wild West stage has those has the minecart. Whereas this actually has platforms right out of Shadow Man stage from Mega Man 3. If you stand on them too long, they collapse. However, we want to do that in this case to get to a Monterey Jack room. Otherwise, though, this stage is pretty straightforward. The most interesting thing the stage does otherwise is actually coming up right here, where there's a bolt we need to pick up. And there's a magnet that's one of a kind right here, and if you position yourself carefully, you can jump from this platform to get onto the bolt to get that one up over there. I've only ever gotten it once because it's actually pretty picky with where you need to place yourself, but it's there. It makes me wonder if the reason that there's not as many 1-ups and such and acorns around the area is just because it's an overall easier game. However, the boss of Future World is probably the hardest out of the 3. This is the Grimacing Gecko. The way this fight works is that he's constantly moving left and right. However, whenever he goes to the very extreme right, and he's probably going to speed up towards the left, so you need to be wary of that. The only attack it has otherwise is dropping down the Wrecking Ball, which will cause 2 bits of debris to fly out, which is the attacks we need to use to, which are the objects we need to use to attack the gecko. However, you can't just attack the gecko from any angle. You need to go between the ball and the main machine itself to throw it at him. Because of that, this fight can actually be kind of hard to time. It's one of those fights where it probably looks easier than it is. It's mostly just a matter of stress, trying to figure out when you should go in there and such. Overall, though, not too bad. Very Mega Man-like in design, though, not gonna lie. Mind you, I think a lot of the Capcom Disney games use some variations of Mega Man engines. I know DuckTales 1 is just outright Mega Man 1's engine. But, yeah, that's that stage. Future World, not too bad. And with that, I think we're on to the final stage. Now, of course, one more bonus game. I do like the background for the bonus game, surprisingly detailed for a Cities game on the NES. Shh! Fat Cat's right inside! Let's use the keys! I agree, Zipper. It's unlocked! Open the door! There's no one here. We've got you now, Fat Cat! The Rescue Rangers are here! Hey! He's gone! Where'd he go? Look, everyone! A secret passage! Let's go! Be careful. This could be our last stand. Let's go, Rescue Rangers! This final stage is honestly not too hard. I'd probably say it's about the difficulty of Future World, honestly. There are some unique enemies here, as well as conveyor belts to push you around, and they eventually combine these with lasers firing from the ceiling in a manner sort of similar to the moles from Mega Man 2. But overall, nothing too bad. You want to watch out for this enemy, though, because their hitbox gets pretty big when they start attacking, if I recall correctly. But yeah, due to the amount of Ranger badges in this stage, I find this to be the easiest stage to get continue in, which is useless because you only get the continue after you beat the stage, and once you beat this stage, you beat in the game. kind of makes you wonder why they even bothered to put the items in there, though, but oh well. You do want to be careful here, because that's probably some of the hardest jumps in the game right there, trying to avoid the birds while also making it from conveyor belt to conveyor belt. Thankfully, though, the electricity, which is redundant, I know, is not instant kill, it's just a source of damage. And they are kind enough to give you a Monterey Jack thing right here before the final charge. Even the final stage itself is pretty short. The only reason there's like 8 minutes left in the video is due to the final boss itself and ending, really. You can hit these switches, I believe, if you have the boxes flash while they throw. Basically go for the super throw, and I think that reverses the conveyor belt. It's overall not too worth doing, though, because it's easy enough just to get through it while it's not reversed. Also, I swear the robot dog's moving sound effect is just a shortened version of the reappearing, disappearing block sound effect from Mega Man. This is probably the most annoying section in the game. These cannons are firing green bouncy balls around. There can only be one on the screen at a time, but it's very likely to hit you just due to how fast it is. However, if you duck beneath the box, you're protected from damage, so you can just spam that in order to not get hit. The letter D. Da. You do want to be careful here, because these guys, you need to either get a super throw or just avoid them altogether. Dang-gear. Dang-gear. What does that mean? Welcome, Rescue Rangers. I've been waiting for you. You'll never get away, fat cat. Surrender! You'll never defeat me, Rescue Rangers. I have the ultimate weapon, the Fat Cat Robot. Did you hear something? Look out, everyone! The final boss is truly a spectacle. Truly a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. The Fat Cat Robot. This fight's annoying, but not because it's actually hard. Every attack this guy has is really easy to dodge. What we just saw there is actually a demonstration of how the fight's mainly going to work. The main attack it has is to hover all the way up in the air, in which case two things will happen. A danger sign will show up, which is where he's going to come back down from, and a bomb will drop with a timer on it. The timer starts when he falls back down. You need to throw the bomb in such a timing that it would basically hit 0 when the bomb is right next to it, damaging it. The timing for that, partially due to the slowdown with the size of the sprite, the flickering sprites, and the other stuff going on in the fight, is actually kind of tight. So this fight could take a while just based off that. The other attacks it has relate to all three of its limbs. It can either just shoot its hand forward on the left with a bit of a grabby hand motion, which will damage you outright. It can fire the spike on its left hand, the one on the right, in a bit of an up and down pattern like so. However, it is worth noting that it constantly goes in the same pattern and won't shift up its pattern at all. And it tends to do it later in the fight, but it also has an attack with its tail, where it'll electrify the floor and 3 electrical balls will go along the floor that you need to dodge in soon. Here it is right there. I'm speeding up this fight just because of how long it takes. Compared to every other boss in the game, this is annoying similarly to the Grimacing Ghost, the Grim Ghost, just due to how long it takes. It's kind of annoying in that right. When you've thrown enough bombs at it, the fight doesn't end immediately. Instead, we get a little bit of a nice little graphical change where you destroy its left shoulder. This actually adds another attack to the enemy. When it attacks now, it'll also cause fire to rain in, I think, 2 ranges from it, close and medium distance. I don't think it shoots one far. I'm not sure if when the robot is partially exploding, if the little wrenches and metal pieces that fly out of it are damaging. I've actually never even remotely gotten close to hitting one, so I'm not sure. But you might want to avoid the little debris that falls out of it just in case. At this point, the fight's more or less a war of attrition, especially because I only have 1 hit point left. The 3 hit points seems like very few, but honestly with bosses like this that are this easy, you don't really have to fear too much. The worst case scenario of this fight's probably if it falls all the way to the left, which is very rare because at that point you need to be behind it, and that's just kind of annoying feeling. A few hits after destroying the one shoulder though, the other shoulder will be destroyed, and that is game. Annoying boss fight, mostly just due to how long it can take and how precise the bombs can be, but the stage overall is, barring the cannon section at the very end, pretty easy. And hey, let's continue! Sweet, I've already cleared the game! Useless. Why even have the score tally at that point then? Why have the bonus game? This game doesn't load you into a hard mode, so what? The ceiling! She's giving way! Go find cover, everyone! Dale and I will track down Fat Cat. Take care of yourselves! Oh wow, off-screen explosion, really. Chip and Dale are trapped inside! We've lost the lads forever! No, we're right here. We're fine. Chip! Dale! Thank goodness you're safe. We almost didn't make it. And we never did capture Fat Cat. He must still be trapped inside. But if I know Fat Cat, he had his escape well planned. Well, if nothing else, we made that blighter's life a little less cushy, eh? You said it. And if he ever shows up again, then I guess we'll just have to teach him another lesson. Right, Rangers? Right! Watch out, Fat Cat! We're the Rescue Rangers! And Zipper comes in because mascot character, despite not being the mascot. And that's the game! Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers 2, I think, is a better game than the original in mechanics, stage design, and bosses, but I think it loses out a bit just due to the length of the stages. If the stages were maybe twice the length that they are now, I'd say this would be probably one of the best Disney NES games, but Darkwing Duck, the DuckTales duology, and such come out better just due to how much more meat they have comparatively. It's not a bad game, it's really good, and in fact, I'd probably say it's the last of the really, really good NES Disney games that I've yet to cover. But ultimately, it's there. If you want to play it, it's on the NES. I think it was on most of the virtual consoles, and I think it's in that PS4, Xbox One, Disney Afternoon Game Collection. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.